Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Dog Park and the expansion Dog Park New Tricks. Dog Park is a dog walking game for 1 to 4 players, although with the expansion 1 to 5 players, I'll go into the base game first and then talk about what the expansion adds. The base game of Dog Park is basically a dog walking game. Across 4 rounds, you're going to go through a sequence of first recruiting various dogs into your kennel or your dog walking practice, selecting which dogs you're going to go on a walk, and then going on an actual walk following these pathways over here. That process is going to have you starting with recruiting. You're going to be bidding points in this game. You're going to be gaining points throughout the game, bidding points, and those points are going to allow you to get certain dogs because you are trying to be mindful of what dogs you get in the game for a variety of reasons. Anything from the forecast abilities that might be relevant to the dogs, the various breed expert, which are going to give you points in the game for whoever has the most of certain types of breeds, or alternatively the dog abilities as well, or lastly, your private goals. Any of those things can influence why you want certain dogs, and that's why you're going to go ahead and spend points. Players are going to go ahead and privately bid points over here, flip it over, and then see who won the dog. There is a whole tie-breaking mechanism, not going to heavily get into that, but you're going to go ahead and gather the dogs and place those dogs into your kennel or to your dog walking practice or whatnot. Players are going to go ahead and have the opportunity to continue to go ahead and draft these dogs. So you're going to be drafting 2 dogs every single round, which means across the course of the game, without getting into any special abilities or anything else, you will have 8 dogs to be dealing with, and you're going to be taking those dogs on walks, which is where you go from the recruiting phase to the select phase. Once you're done recruiting dogs, which means you're going to have a few dogs right away, you're going to be gathering more and more in the select phase, and you do want to be mindful of the forecast abilities. As you move from phase to phase, you're going to reveal the forecast and see what's coming up over here, and have new abilities that are going to impact you. But as you go to the select phase, you're going to be selecting which dogs you're going to go on a walk with. And the relevance of that is, first of all, taking dogs on a walk will get you points, but just as importantly, any dogs you have that haven't been walked throughout the course of the game will lose you points. So you're trying to be mindful of the fact that, in general, it's good to walk dogs, even if they've already been walked. But you need to make sure that you don't neglect dogs. Not walking dogs will cost you points, so your priority is kind of making sure you walk everyone at least once, and then certain dogs more times, especially because it's going to get you points or may trigger certain abilities. When you go on a walk with a dog, you're going to pay its cost over here. There's a little treat cost, paying those costs to be able to walk that dog, and then you're going to implement any abilities along the way. Abilities will take into place anything from final scoring abilities, to while on a walk, to when selected. You'll have a variety of abilities you're going. Which brings us to step 3. Once you've paid for any of the dogs you want to afford, as many as you can afford to pay for, and you will get points for each of them, once you've paid for those dogs, you start the process of going on a walk. When you go on a walk, you have this pathway over here. You're going to have your dog walkers who are going to be moving around. You're going to be moving 1 to 4 steps each turn, and you're going to be getting the benefit of whatever you land on. The moving more steps is good because you're possibly getting ahead of other players, getting stuff that otherwise might be blocked off, and you also control the flow because once there's only 1 player left in the park, once there's only 1 walker left on the pathway, that walker loses the last out of park bonus. They're going to gain that, which is a bad thing. You're gaining a negative point as opposed to getting these points over here for being the first one out. So there's a little bit of incentive to rush, but you go too quickly and then you might be the first one out while the other players all get these additional benefits. Players are taking turns, moving 1 to 4 spaces, collecting what they land on. Each round you're going to have a location deck that's going to have a card played that impacts which spots might be more valuable, getting anything from points to various treats to be able to swapping dogs, looking at dogs, a whole bunch of abilities you're going to have over here that you're trying to be mindful of as you try to prep and prepare yourself for the next round of dog walking in this game. When you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and get some points for the dogs you walked, and that represents a round. You're going to repeat that 4 more times. At the end of the game, you're going to score points for a variety of things. The points you've gotten in-game, the points you have from many dog abilities, the points you have from the set collection of the breed experts over here, the points you have from your 2 goals, your standard and experience goal, and then 1 point for every 5 remaining resources as well. That's the basic idea of Dog Park. Across 4 rounds of play, recruit dogs, select those dogs to go on a walk, pay their costs, utilize their abilities, and then go ahead and go on a walk, prepping yourself for abilities or points or all these things, and do that 4 times and see who won the game. That's how you play. The expansion is going to add a few things. The expansion adds, let's do what the expansion adds first, and then we'll go into my opinions and thoughts after. Expansion, we'll have to move this drop to the side so I can grab various expansion components over here. We're looking at what happened. We're going to go ahead and grab various components. We have our 5th player components, which I'm not going to go through all of these, but there's a bunch of 5th player components. There are more goals, more cards in general. Some of which I don't feel the need to get into, but I will get into the fact that we have tricks. In the game, one of the big parts of the expansion is you're going to have an entire trick sideboard. So we're going to take a sideboard, you're going to put it at the top of your board, which on top, right? I'm putting it on top of the board because camera, but it would go on top of your board, and you're going to have various tricks that are going to go down onto the board over here, giving you things that your dogs can earn. Because every round you're going to introduce a step where you have a dog trainer, that's going to be this little guy over here, who can go ahead and train one of your dogs with a trick, effectively giving that dog another ability. Another thing that they can do over here with a cost they have to pay, depending on whether the trainer is with them or not, and you're going to get other abilities, which gives you more things to be mindful as far as combining. You're already trying to be mindful in the game of combining abilities from the various dogs and how they operate, but now you can combine various tricks with the various dogs and abilities. You'll have various tokens that go onto the dogs, indicating that the dog is trained, and those dogs will benefit from those abilities in the game. So that's going to give you another thing that you're effectively trying to do in the game, a big factor of the game. The other thing you're going to be looking at as a relatively big change is there are going to be various location tokens over here that are in this box over here. Those are going to go onto spots on the board, giving you more intricate differences that show up every single round. And then you're also going to have multi-species cards over here, various dogs that are coming to you from multiple things. We have a gun dog hound, we have a gun dog utility, we have a pastoral, it's a regular pastoral over here, we have a terrier utility. So you have all these other dogs over here that are going to give you different combinations, and you're going to mix those into the deck. You're going to have a third of these multi-breed dogs, and then 2/3 of regular dogs in the base game. Mix those up, and that gives you a whole new thing to be mindful of, especially because those dogs count towards multiple breeds in those breed expert bonuses at the end of the game. And those are the primary things that the game adds. A fifth player, super location, multi-breed dogs, and tricks. That's going to be the main focus of the expansion. Which brings me to my review, starting off with ease of play. Dog Park and the expansion are both fairly straightforward. The rulebook is well written, it's short, it's to the point, it's an easy game to teach, an easy game to play, plays in around 45 minutes to an hour depending on player count. It's a game you could definitely move through it faster if you really wanted to, but I'd say it probably takes that 45 minute to an hour range. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, in general, there's a solid production of the game. The art looks beautiful, the cars look beautiful, everything looks great, especially, I believe I have the deluxe version over here. You can have a lot of these token trays, you're going to have, and I don't know what's different between the standard and the deluxe version of the game. You have deluxe-fied resources, you're going to have a beautiful art and production across the board, and more importantly, a good implementation of theme and game. Walking Dogs is a somewhat unique game, we'll get more to it in recommendations, but Walking Dogs is a somewhat unique theme, and they didn't just take the theme, but they also well implemented it into the actual feeling of the game, of trying to collect your various customers and whatnot, select which ones you're going for a walk, moving along the actual park here and collecting rewards. I'd say, outside of the fact that technically you can abandon a dog once you walked it once and leave it alone the rest of the time, for the most part the theme is fairly well implemented, which especially means that if you are a dog owner or you like dogs in general, this gives you a nice implementation of theme and game together, theme and mechanics together in a game. There's definite decisions to maximize points. I touched upon this a little bit with the dogs, abilities, and tricks, but there's a lot of ways to combine things to be able to try to figure out what's going to give you a slight edge, what's going to give you that extra resource which allows you to take that extra dog for a walk using that trick from that dog over there. You have a combination of things you're trying to put together and to be able to figure out what you need while you try to be mindful of everything else, because you have the various dog breeds over here and the points they're worth, and they have different ratios of what's likely to show up in the deck, and you're trying to plan around that as you choose what to go for. You can have your own goals over here, and so you have the pathways and the various location deck that's going to shift round to round, and the forecast. All of these things do two things. They first of all make the game variable game to game, giving you different things to consider as you play through it, but they also give you a lot of decision points just in terms of how to combine and maximize things as you try to figure out the best way to get as many points as possible in the game. And that's basically the things I like. As far as things I don't like in the game, there's really only just one thing, and it's not really a thing I don't like so much as just the nature of the game. Dog Park is a lighter game. It's a lighter game despite the fact that there is definite decision space, especially around combining things and trying to eke out those points. It does fall a bit on the lighter side, and it's also worth noting I'm not a dog lover in general, so the theme doesn't pull me in more, which makes this a very good, lightweight, accessible game, but for the target audience, for me it's a game I enjoyed, but it's a little lighter than what I'm personally looking for and didn't fall into what the type of lighter game that I tend to appreciate more. So not really a critique against any one mechanic. I think it's doing very well for the target demographic. I think I fall a little bit out of that target demographic. I was hoping the new tricks expansion would add more to the game to be able to make it a little bit more what I'm looking for. And while it does add to the game, we'll talk more about this in my final thoughts, I don't think it brought it to the level of decision space that I tend to like in a game like this. As far as what I can see others not liking, first of all, there's luck of the draw on dogs, and that's definitely a thing that can happen, especially as you're going for these breeds over here, and you have players who manage to draw the exact right dog at the end of the game, and therefore get those extra 7 points from you. That kind of thing can happen. The only reason it doesn't bother me is because I don't think this is as much my type of thing anyway, so because I view it as lighter anyway, I'm like, okay, it's part of the experience, but if you're more invested over here, losing the game to a lucky draw at the end can definitely be frustrating. I'll also say that you do have games where everybody's rushing through the park, and that will totally change your experience. If you have a bunch of players rushing through the park, trying to like move 4 spaces, and get these benefits, you might find that every player, the players who did it, as well as the player who got left behind, tend to be a bit more starved for resources. characters. It'll change the way you approach the game by having a rush through the park kind of game, whereas one where you have everyone trying to eke out every single thing they can get, that'll just change your experience overall. As far as final thoughts on the base game and on the expansion, Dog Park I think is a charming game with doing a very good, I think it's doing very good for the target demographic, which for me are going to be people who like dog-themed games in general or dog lovers, combined with the fact that it is a lighter experience. So it gives you that gateway feeling and that gateway accessibility, and I think it does a good job in that category. I think it's just less so for me. Again, the decision space is present. There are things you're thinking about. There are ways to maximize, but overall, it wasn't a tight enough experience or a more intricate enough experience to give me what I'm personally looking for. So I both think it's a good game, while also thinking it didn't land for me. The new Tricks expansion is interesting, because I think if you like the base game and you just want more, well then go ahead and get it. If you like the base game and you thought there was just needed a drop more decision space, this will give you that drop more decision space. I don't think it does anything majorly different. I think the addition of Tricks is nice, but I kind of get that feeling from just mixing up dogs in general, so it's giving you more of the same, which means if you don't like Dog Park, I don't think that the expansion is going to change that for you. It's more giving you more of the same while different. Just instead of more dogs, you have these Tricks as a different decision space there. I think the multi-breed cards are certainly nice. I don't know if they're essential. And obviously if you want a 5th player, well, this is going to be the way to get it. For me, overall, this is a 3 out of 5. It's a solid game. I just think for me it's not landing as much for me personally where it's at, but I also do think this is one that's going to work for a lot of people. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, if you want another dog-themed walking game, there's Bark Avenue. You can check out that for a game that's going to give you a lot of fun things, including adorable little cutesy little poops, which is not a phrase I'm used to saying in board game reviews. And if you're looking for a game that gives you the kind of a racing mechanic that this one does on the board, but with a lot more decision space baked in, I think Parks, not Dog Park, but just straight up Parks, will give you that element of the game, also across 4 rounds with mixing up a lot more things going on in the game, and for me, a bit more of a satisfying experience. In any case, then until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.